You guys, this is Professor Vet. We're just going to cover what we can here of the final review. This will be an abbreviated video, and it'll probably be shot throughout the day, so you'll see me in different outfits. But let's try to get as much done here as we can. Remember, the final exam is grammar and spelling count. Do your best to get the general idea out, but make sure that what you write down expresses what you are thinking. Okay, first mock question. What are the three main areas of philosophy? Please provide an example of each area from this course. Okay, there are three areas of philosophy, right? There is epistemology, right, which is the study of knowledge, metaphysics, the study of what there is and what it is like, and then there is ethics, and ethics is the study of right and wrong. Now, example for each one. There are tons of them, right? We had the gum or the wax from Descartes. We had Gettier cases. We had dreamed out. How do you know you're not dreaming? So we had a lot of examples about epistemology there. Some I didn't even mention. Feel free to go through those. Metaphysics, the study of what there is and what it's like. This is the realism, anti-realism distinction. This also includes free will. This includes idealism. This includes materialism, right? So lots of mind-body problem is even metaphysics. Okay, ethics, the study of right and wrong. Lots of examples here, right? Utilitarianism, greatest good for the greatest number. Duty-based ethics, divine command theory. And, you know, of course, those trolley examples, which are really part of the ethics portion. Now, when you give me an example, explain why it's an example. Okay, come here, come here, come here. You can say hi. Come here. There you go. You're right there. What do you say? Say hi.
Hi.
Say, my name is Maxie. And I like Sobita. Okay. This is for Daddy's work, okay? Yeah, this is for Daddy's work. Okay. All right, so make sure for whatever example you give that you explain what it is, why it's an example of ethics. You know, so the trolley-based, we studied what the right and wrong decision would be. For metaphysics, you know, realism and anti-realism relate to what is out there in the world, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that's a deceptively tough question. You've got to explain, identify the three main areas, explain what they're about, and then tie what they're about to an example from the course. All right, next up. According to Milton Friedman, what is the function of a business/corporation? Okay, so Milton Friedman thinks the function of a corporation or a business is to make money. Okay, okay. Thank you, my love. You're a big helper. Okay, Milton Friedman thinks the function of a corporation or business is to make money within the confines of the law. Right? In other words, profit maximization. Now, then the next person, John Lackey of Whole Foods, has a different view. He thinks function of a corporation or business, I'm using the two similarly, but they're different concepts, but they're the same for us. The function of a corporation or business is look out for others, especially stakeholders, and this is like members of the community, etc. Now, so those are the two basic ones, right? Remember, he was the Freedom Rock guy. He was the kind of Freedom Rock model business. Okay, who do you think is right? Well, you've got to pick one and make the argument for it. So if you're picking Friedman, it's because maybe this is the way it actually works, right? Whereas you might make the argument, if you want to take Lackey, that this is the way things ought to work. That you can concede Friedman's right. Most of the time businesses only really worry about money. That's why it's a business. But if you want to take Lackey's position, you say, look, even though this is true, businesses should operate in this other way, right? Okay. Why does Albert Camus think that the meaning of life is the most important question a philosopher can ask? Okay, well, it is remember this was the example from class where we went through all those slides. The meaning of life, I'm just going to abbreviate here. The meaning of life is a question people are willing to die for. Meaning, people die for what makes life worth living. People do not die for the ontological argument. Galileo, for instance, I can't even spell it. I'm just going to put Galileo. He abandoned his truth when his life was at stake. Remember the stake of great importance, that the sun was the center of the earth. Oh, okay. That's good, buddy. It's okay. All right, so, okay, so that's that one. What is the theistic solution to the meaning of life proposed by the book, discussed in class? That the meaning of life has something to do with the existence of God or belief in the existence of God. Okay. So for example, I am here to know God. Remember, we read that passage from the book where he said all men to desire to know the cause of all things, so men desire to know God. Or I am here to fulfill God's plan. Okay, so what is one criticism of the theistic solution to the meaning of life? So there's the problem of disbelief or non-belief, right? And that is that if you do not agree with a particular belief, then your life is not meaningful. Remember, we talked about Aztecs or Chinese, people who don't share the same conception of God. If having the proper conception of God was essential to the meaning of life, then most of the people who've ever lived have had meaningless lives. But we don't want to say that, so that's one thing. And remember, that could be a little bit of a straw man, but it's, again, in our course, we're just trying to do the postcard, right? There's always going to be a reply. It's never that easy. It's never one and done, right? There's always a reply. There's the so what example. Remember, hold on. And it doesn't seem to work. It doesn't seem to make sense when looking at your own worldview. But when you look at another worldview, this is a criticism that seems to have more import. And the idea is just, okay, you complete whatever this process is, this divine process, you become enlightened or you make it to heaven. Then what do you do? Right? It's this idea that what we've done is essentially make sense of this life by telling a story about what happens after it. But then we ask now, okay, well, now we need to make sense of this form of consciousness, so we go out that way. Now, if you believe in heaven or you believe in reincarnation or you believe in enlightenment, then obviously someone's saying, well, then what happens after you're enlightened doesn't really make sense. You've sort of missed the point, right? But it's just a dry logical point. Okay, so we covered those two. That should be sufficient. We might have covered others. The book mentions this tool exception, that somehow using a person is somehow using them like a tool. This is a means to an end argument. It comes from duty-based ethics, specifically probably Kant, but don't even need to get into that. If it makes sense to you and you want to go with that one, it's fine, but otherwise just totally disregard it. Okay, what is a verificationist approach to the meaning of life? For the verificationist, the meaning of life is a meaningless question. This is because, right, a sentence has meaning only if it can be verified as true or false. So remember a sentence like the invisible green dragon is under the table, but no one and no thing can ever detect her. Right? And so the idea is that that sentence here is meaningless because there's no way to check whether it's true or false. And so it has no application whatsoever. That's the verificationist approach to the meaning of life. But the question, so the answer, there is a realm outside of space and time, ... you know, where we all go to live and so forth after we die. Well, there's no way to check that, right? There's no way to check that. So you're going to read it. Now, criticism of this approach. This approach cannot be applied to itself. The statement, a sentence is meaningful if and only if it can be applied to itself. Only if it can be verified, cannot be applied to itself. No. Thus, the approach is inconsistent. Okay, so you guys are doing great. We're almost there. Let's go down to a couple more. Hey, come here, silly goose. What are you doing? Come over here, sweetie. I know. Come over here real quick. Okay.
I was trying to be an alien.
You were? Okay. Who's that guy?
Me.
And?
Dada.
Yeah. Who loves you? Who loves you?
Dada.
Yeah. This is for Daddy's work, okay?
Okay.
All right. All right. So, what is the linguistic approach to the meaning of life? You know what? That's okay. This one has to do with category mistake. Okay. Shh, Daddy's got to work. Okay, you guys. Uber chaos here at the house. Let's get through this. The linguistic approach to the meaning of life tries to dissolve the question as to the meaning of life. The question, the statement, invite Wednesday to dinner makes no sense. Wednesday is a day of the week. You cannot invite such things to dinner. Right? So what you're doing here is you're explaining what a category mistake is. This is called a category mistake. The linguistic approach treats the question meaning of life as an improper question. It is literally meaningless, right? So it doesn't make any sense at all to ask that question. Notice, just as a side note, this is actually far different than nihilism. Nihilism says there is no meaning to life. This approach says it doesn't even make sense to say that it does or doesn't have life. It doesn't. It's a category mistake. So this is not nihilism. It's a little bit different. Okay, what is eternal return? Why would someone be motivated to think that way? Eternal return is the wish or want that one's life is repeated in exactly the same way forever. We can in a little bit. We're gonna go. I know you guys love Grandma and Papa. Okay, let Daddy finish this. I'm almost done. Okay. one might be motivated to think this way because, okay, get away from the curtains, you two, because it does not rely on any other realm. I'm going to go turn off that Olivia. Make sense of this life. If one really wishes this life to return endlessly, one has given it value because one has chosen it. So the idea here is like, you know, which has more value to you? Chocolate milk or regular milk? Well, you know, they're both good, right? But the one that you like the most, probably the chocolate milk, is the one that you choose to drink. And so I'm sure some of you will say, yes, I'm going to go ahead and drink them both. But just suppose you could only drink one. Which one would you choose? You'd say the chocolate milk, right? Because it has greater value to you. Maybe because of its taste, maybe because of its color, who knows? But for whatever reason, you value that one. And the idea behind eternal return, of course, is that if you chose this life to return over again, then you really have given it value because it's the one you would choose, right? It's the one you would pick. Now, I'm gonna add another question here. What is a criticism of this view? And criticism is, this seems to be quite, we'll say selfish. It's narcissistic, right? It's self-involved. All of history would have to be the same in order for you to live your life. All the cases of rape, starvation, and death must repeat identically in order for your life to be exactly the same, right? But that seems ridiculous, and that's fair enough. I mean, now there's another response that we talked a little bit about in class, which is that there's a response to this, but don't worry about it. We're just doing the postcard, right? Okay, what is nihilism? Nihilism is the view that there is no, or that there are no universal values, right? There is ultimately no good or evil.
No, I made Maxie disappear.
Well, hurry up and make him reappear. Daddy's almost done. Okay, what is a criticism? I'm almost done, sweetie pie. So that's it, short and sweet. Now, there are two criticisms of nihilism, right? The first, which is it's practically impossible, right? Everyone values something, otherwise they would not be part of our social fabric. Everyone thinks something is of value, right? This is from, you know, parking a car to you know, just being nice to someone in hopes that things are nicer for you, right? I mean, it's just very difficult to actually, from a day-to-day standpoint, be a nihilist. There's some soft popping up of values somewhere in someone's life. It's hard not to be. So that's just kind of a practical standpoint first. So that's number one. And then second, we didn't cover this too much in the class, but I'll tell you what it is. Nihilism seems to require a universal value or statement that there are no such universal values. There's something about nihilism that's maybe could be considered inconsistent, meaning somebody says there are no rules, right? So, e.g., there are no rules. Well, is that a rule? Right? I say there are no rules in this game. Okay, then the rule for the game is there are no other rules, right? So, okay, so that's a problem with nihilism. Okay, the call of this course was, at the core of all well-founded belief lies belief that is unfounded, from an awesome philosopher, Ludwig Wittgenstein. What does this quote mean? You tell me. Provide 2 examples from your studies this semester. So you guys have to figure this one out. At the core of all well-founded beliefs lies belief that is unfounded. What does that mean? And I don't mean what does that mean to you. It means no one's beliefs are beyond analysis, and no one's beliefs are immune to being somewhere along the line unjustified, right? Eventually we'll get to beliefs that are not justified, or things that you think are true and you probably don't have reason to think that those things are true. That's really the goal of this. And hopefully somewhere along the line you've seen this happen, right? So I'm going to leave the first part for you to formulate, but it has to do with justification of beliefs, and as a lack of justification, you are instilled with some humbleness as to the likelihood that you want the juice. Okay, I'll get it for you in 1 second, okay? You go kiss Owen and I'll come back. And you come back, I'll have it for you. Justification beliefs as a lack of justification, you are instilled with some humbleness. Nobody's beliefs are perfect. And then lastly, and then another one, 2 examples. There are lots of them, right? I always think of the mind-body as a big one. Most people tend to think that the mind-body problem, they never think of it before, but they think they have a, yep, here you go. They have a physical and a non-physical nature. They think that, but it never occurs to them how they interact. And so that's an important one. There's also free will versus determinism. We've never covered that before, but most people believe in something like a deterministic universe and that there are laws of nature, but they never actually think, oh my gosh, those laws of nature may end up applying to me and my entire life may be determined. It could be anything, right? In this part of the section, you could have the problem of evil. You could have anything from free will and foreknowledge, right? Where we talk about divine knowledge and free will. Oh gosh, you know, it could be something about the cosmological argument or teleological argument, that perhaps before you thought that your beliefs, say for instance in God, were not well grounded, but now you know, you really like the teleological argument and you understand some of its objections, but you still think it provides reasons for supporting your belief, right? I mean, this is just basically pick anything from the entire course. What this will probably be is one of the things in this course that you actually remember, hopefully the day after you take the final, right? It'll be something that interested you. It could be something about ethics and how we justify right and wrong, how we think about right and wrong, and if we can't come up with a coherent explanation, are we any better than other people in history who've done horrible things and they thought they were doing these things in the face of right and wrong? Okay, it could be realism, anti-realism. That, you know, you always thought that our reality was pretty much out there, cut and dry, until we started talking about examples involving, you know, plants in offices and what we can know, etc., etc. Okay, you guys, that should cover it. Should be a forward final. This is about a 25-minute long video. The last one was 45. There are fewer questions, but I also went through them a little more quickly. I hope it's helpful. If you've gotten this far in the video, I really appreciate it. It's been a great class to teach. You guys have been great classes. I have 2 intro classes. They're both really good. So thanks, you guys, and I appreciate it.